Hello, welcome to my little talk called Music for Games, my process from sketch to ship. I'm Marty O'Donnell. I want to talk to you today about my entire process, but mostly my process for composing music. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about how I make adaptive music or music that adapts inside of a video game. We might touch a little bit on that towards the end, but that's like an entirely other talk. But I want to talk about how I sketch ideas musically and how I bring them all the way through to the point where they're shippable, either on a soundtrack or on a game or a movie or whatever it might be. So let's proceed. I'm glad you're all here. I wish I could hear you and see you, but maybe another time. So the very first thing you have to do in order to write music for a game or write music for anything is you have to become a composer. That maybe seems pretty obvious, but we actually have some information on how to become a composer. Robert Schumann told us in very clear terms that in order to compose, all you have to do is remember a tune that nobody else has thought of, which is brilliant. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. However, I think it's also important to go beyond just that. You have to become a better composer. So now we're going to talk about how to become a better composer. And here we go. Follow these rules and you'll be a better composer. First of all, learn to play an instrument. You should play some instrument for sure. And you should also then learn to play the piano, because the piano as a composer, it's sort of the jack of all trades of instruments. It covers everything. You should get together with other musicians and play in a group. You should learn how to sing. You should, of course, learn how to read music. You should learn how to write music, meaning you write it down, maybe some calligraphy. Of course, you should listen to music. Live music is best. Go to concerts. And then learn instrumental techniques, which means all the instruments you don't play, you should learn how to play, or at least all the techniques involved in all the instruments in the entire world. You should learn music theory, of course, just basic music theory from the beginning of time up until now, and learn counterpoint, learn orchestration. You should learn, of course, now, because we have recording and mixing, you should learn everything you can about recording music and mixing music, which means you should learn all of the newest digital audio workstations. You should get familiar with all of them and know how to work them to your best ability. And there's a lot of tools out there you need to learn how to work. And the final thing, of course, is anything that I left off this list, you should learn how to do these things. So if you go to school like I did, and you learn music your whole life, and you become a composer, and you have a bachelor's of music degree in composition, and then you have a master's of music degree in composition, and at some point you learn how to do calligraphy, you could write a piece of piano music and have it look like this. This is my hand-printed ink process, right? I mean, this is calligraphy of music. So this is mine. So there you go. Figure that it's going to take you 10,000 hours to get good at anything. So this is the result of about 10,000 hours of work and study and learning. And I became a better composer. Almost immediately after I got my master's in music composition, I went back to Chicago and decided that I needed to make a living. And so I started working with a friend of mine, Mike Salvatore, and one of the very first things we did is we did some music in his studio. And I'm going to share with you our very first demo that we used to get jobs. So this is the first music after 10,000 hours of expertise. This is the first music. Now, this demo is only 2 minutes long, and in this talk, there's going to be a lot of listening to music. So you won't just be hearing me talk this whole time. There'll be listening. So take the next 2 minutes to listen to this music. Here's our little demo, music example number 1. This is the Prophet Pro 1, a Casio keyboard, and a Roland TR-808 drum machine. This is long before Chariots of Fire. Maybe this is about the same time as Chariots of Fire. Yeah, this came out after Chariots of Fire. So, believe it or not, every one of those pieces you just heard was actually sold to somebody. And we did years and years worth of work after that. But that was our very, very first demo. And so the reason I played that for you is because I want you to just think about this. Don't beat yourself up, okay? No matter what your education is, what your background is, you just got to jump in and start doing it. It's not going to be great right away. Everybody has to start somewhere. And the lesson I want you to understand is that, like, I'm still proud of, like, a lot of the early stuff I did, and a lot of the early stuff is sort of embarrassing. But we all have to start somewhere. And by the same token, pieces of music all have to start somewhere. Almost no piece of music just comes flying into existence, like, fully produced. It has to start with a sketch. It has to start with a germ of an idea, and then you can build on it from there. So don't squash early ideas. Don't be mean to yourself. Be kind to yourself, and be kind to those early music ideas, because some of those things can turn into something that could be pretty cool. Everything starts with a germ of an idea, and the most important thing to me is when you start thinking about those early stages. The notes really, really matter. The notes you choose, how you choose to put those notes together. Don't go to the next step of production. Don't fall in love with synth sounds and samples and just start getting into production. The notes you choose actually matter, because the notes become what I call the musical DNA. The musical DNA, the underpinning structure to everything that follows. And the emotional equity of those notes will carry through entire projects. It could carry through for decades. But don't just take my word for it. This is the way it has worked for all composers. And here's somebody who I really have a lot of respect for. So check this out.
A very simple little sequence of notes, but I spend more time on those little bits of musical grammar to get them just right so that they seem inevitable.
So that is brilliant. Those notes seem inevitable. And that takes us back to what Robert Schumann said about remembering a tune nobody else has thought of. You want, whatever you do, you want that core DNA, those initial ideas, to be strong enough that they can carry you through, and it seems as though this music has always existed. So back in 1999, Mike and I had the honor and privilege of being the first composers for the Halo series. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of how Halo went together. Now, remember that the first Halo music was written 17 years after that first demo that you just heard. So 17 years, that's not 10,000 more hours. That's more like 35,000 more hours. You have to be patient with yourself, and you will get there. You will get there if you just keep working. So the assignment was music that needed to be ancient, epic, and mysterious. So my first thought was monks are ancient, Gregorian chants feels ancient. Epic is big orchestra, and then mysterious, there'll be like sort of a crazy vocal thing that sort of gives it an alien, mysterious feel. What I'd like to do now is show you kind of how this story has been told many, many times, and a little bit of a myth has grown up around this music. And let's just take a little walk down memory lane as far as the myth of Halo music goes.
And this is the first time anybody has ever seen it. It's the first time they've debuted it.
I remember Joe Staten, our writer, came to me and said, yeah, Marty, we need something. We're doing it on Tuesday, and this is Friday.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I said, okay, so it's just gonna be music. I'm gonna give you a CD. Somebody hits play on the CD. Jason's gonna go up on stage and hit the space bar on the scripted demo. And we're just gonna cross our fingers and hope that all this stuff comes together. I asked Joe, all right, what's the emotional tone? What's the story we're trying to tell? And he goes, I don't know, but it needs to be ancient, epic, and mysterious. I'm like, okay, ancient, epic, mysterious. So I called up my partner, Mike, and I said, Mike, I'm gonna come over. We need to figure out a way to do music. We're gonna record on Monday with an orchestra and some singers, but I don't know what we're recording yet. So this is, I believe, a Saturday, and we're recording on Monday. So on the way to his house, I'm driving over, I'm like, okay, ancient, epic, mysterious. Well, ancient, Gregorian chant monks singing. So I made up a melody while I was in the car. I came up with the whole melody in about the half hour it took me to drive to Mike's house. I walk in, I said, Mike, okay, we're gonna do big epic orchestra, but we're gonna start with monks singing and we're gonna end with monks singing, and that'll give us this nice epic ancient feel. And Mike's like, yeah, cool.
He's like, Mike, I got this idea and we got to be done with it by Tuesday. And I was like, it was just another thing. To me, it was just another thing to do. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll do it. Okay. And what is this thing about monks? Really? Okay, cool.
One of the problems with being in the business this long is that there are pictures of you that go way, way back and go not so far back. And then there's the present day reality, and I have to live with all of that. So that's one of the deficits that are involved in being around for so long. Okay, here is the reality of what actually happened on Halo. Talking about the epic orchestra, and this was a time when Mike and I had this really great little studio that we were doing film scores and commercials and video game work. We had, this is 17 years of work. We had this great studio. And then all at once, there was a horrible fire. We basically lost almost everything. And right in the middle of that, we were working on this new project that was eventually to become Halo. So instead of being able to record it there the way I wanted to, we had to go back to Mike's basement and start with new equipment that we just cobbled together from who knows where. And see if we could come up with this ancient, epic, mysterious track that we were going to record at Hinge Studios, which is one of the studios in Chicago we liked. And so here's the MIDI tracks that we did for Halo, starting with MIDI and samples for Halo 1. So here's the epic orchestra and singers. When I was going back through some of my old archives and preparing for this talk, frankly, I was looking for where is that epic orchestra session? How many strings did I have? Was it 20? Was it 24? How many strings? What was that? And I found out that the epic orchestra was 6 strings, which is 2 less than the Beatles had for Eleanor Rigby. So yeah, 4 violins and 2 cellos. I found the old folder that actually has the names of the singers and the violins and the cellos. As you can see, 4 violins, 2 cellos. And they overdubbed a bunch and they played along with the samples. As interesting thing here is my 2 cellists, Barbara and Larry, both got plus 12. What that means is they got $12 more per person on the session because they had to lug around their cellos, which is called cartage. Anyway, so let's go back to that monk melody. I was kind of desperate. I had to come up with a monk melody really fast in the car. That's true. So I was thinking, okay, Dorian melody, a Gregorian chant, but it needs to be a hooky melody. So I thought about a melody that I love, which is Paul McCartney's Yesterday. And I decided to go, let's see, in the car, da 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 da, 2 phrases, da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Okay, 4 phrases, 1 high point, 1 low point. That sounds pretty good. Let's go with that. So by the time we decided to do it, we got the 3 other singers besides Mike and me. These are guys who were jingle singers who I think I had just used on a Mr. Clean commercial. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. So anyway, they came in and sang the monk chant. And here's how it sounds with a little reverb. And of course, the other thing I wanted to do is I sort of conducted it free. This looks like it's in 4/4. I wrote it so it's easily readable in 4/4, but I sort of conducted it freely so it feels somewhat unmetered, just like Gregorian chant. So that worked out pretty good. Here's how the cellos sound if you isolate just the 2 cellos. Now remember, we overdubbed the cellos several times and we had fake cellos along with them. So it sounds pretty good. Once again, add a little reverb and it starts to sound pretty good. But I love that sort of raw, close mic, rosin on the bow sound of these cellos. And also I want you to hear they're leaping. I want the big leaps because I want some messiness and aggressiveness in the strings. And notice the contrary motion. Here's some counterpoint coming in. There's a lot of stuff that sounds parallel, but then there are times when it goes contrary. So check this out. So the last part was this, what I call the mysterious part, the crazy vocal thing. So I had 3, professional jingle singers in there, and I told one of the guys who I thought would be really good at this and had agreed to do this for me, that I wanted somebody to do sort of a yeah, blah, yeah thing. And he said, where do you want that? And so I showed him, and he listened to it and he goes, well, he says, you should just do it. It sounds great when you do it. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do it. Anyway, I ended up doing it. And I was not happy about it, but here's what it sounds like if you listen to it all by itself. So yeah, that ended up being the thing. And it was in there. It's funny too, because I really thought the guys at Bungie were going to say, yeah, take that part out. I actually did a mix that I brought over, even though we had almost no time. I did 2 mixes, one with that in and one without it. and everybody liked it. So that ended up being in Halo. What happens is, here's something that was done in July of 1999. It has enough of that Halo DNA now in it that I am going to try to use it as much as possible. Let's talk just a little bit about what that means to reuse that sort of DNA stuff. A teacher that I had at USC, who was a film composer, famous film composer, his name was David Raxon. And he told us stories because he knew everybody in the industry. And he's famous for composing the score to Laura, which is a classic film noir. It's got an absolutely beautiful score, all sorts of awards for this score. It's just gorgeous. So he told the story of his mentor. His name is Alfred Newman. If you know anything about films and Hollywood film scoring, Alfred Newman is literally the godfather of all film composers. And not only is he the godfather, I think he's actually related to at least half of Hollywood's film composers. Lionel Newman, Emil Newman, David Newman, Thomas Newman, Randy Newman. It's unbelievable. The talent just flowed out of this guy's genes. Anyway, David went to his mentor and said, look, I'm working on Laura. I've got this theme, and I'm using it over and over and over in this film. I think I'm overusing it. I think people are going to get tired of it. And Alfred said, well, if it's not a good theme, you shouldn't use it at all. But if it's a good theme, you should play the hell out of it. So that's something I took with me. If the DNA is right, if it's a good enough theme, you should play the hell out of it. So let's look at this. Now, this is actually a little bit surprising to me because it's so long ago, I forgot how much I use this stuff. And by the way, this Halo DNA, I still hear it in Halo music that's being done right now today. So, but here, let's just listen to some of the different ways that I stretch that musical DNA that you just heard in that first tune that we did in 1999. And here it is in just different pieces from Halo 1. So check it out. Okay, let's move on from there, and I'm going to show the same sort of technique that I did with Halo, used with Destiny, and started with a suite of music that was composed as a prequel to Destiny, but then was used in Destiny, called Music of the Spheres. So the first thing I want to play for you is the very, very first piano sketch for the first piece in the suite, called The Path. So this is just me at the piano after sort of immersing myself in the story of Destiny and what Destiny was going to be like. And this is some stuff I'm working out, some stuff that's sort of improv, And you can tell when I run out of ideas because I always play like a funky chord at the end. Okay, that last part never got in, but that's okay. That just showed me that I was done. I was done with this idea. And what happens is with these early ideas, I come back to them the next day or a few hours later, whatever it is, and I try to say, is there something good in here? Is there something that's worth working on? And in this particular case, I felt like there was some stuff that was worth working on, so I took it to the next level. And here is, I worked stuff out, and now I'm going to play the piano version of something with no rubato, but it's the precursor to the MIDI version where I put some instruments in. That leads us to the third sketch, which is the MIDI sketch, where I start bringing in samples that represent the horns, the strings, the woodwinds. I can start working out some initial orchestration, which leads to the final orchestration. And the final orchestration can then have a conductor, real performance rubato can come back in. So here's the final MIDI sketch before the final orchestration for the path. on that last piece, one of the things I wanted to just show you with that is that as simple as things start off, they can, if you keep working them and you trust the process, you will eventually get to that sunrise or sunset, whatever you want to do. That's what's so great about music, is that, like, if you have a swelling sunrise feel in the music, you can throw any sort of picture over it. That's why I threw sunset over that, because I just felt like it needed to have something. Anyway, music is very malleable, and you can marry just about anything up to a nice piece of music and have something that is emotionally impactful. So the next piece I want to show you is another piece from Music of the Spheres and Destiny called The Ecstasy. And I want to just show you some of my approach is to keep things, as I'm choosing the notes, sometimes I want to pare it down to the simplest relationships of notes. And in this case, 3-note chords. These are not necessarily just triads, or it's not tertial harmony, it's not built in thirds. So these are 3-note chords that could be quartal, quintal, built in fifths, fourths, ninths, seconds, or thirds, major and minor thirds. So, but I like the idea of keeping the harmony sort of exposed and open, because then I know I can build on that later. But in this particular case, I wanted a strong theme with some strong harmonic movement. And what's nice is that if it's strong enough, you can really treat it by just changing the colors and the orchestration and keeping the things the same. So here it is first on piano. Just 3-note chords. And of course, then this is how it sounds with the full orchestra. And notice I don't add more notes. Sometimes all you have to do is just to expand by octaves, just to keep things, make things bigger. You can just spread things out. So same exact notes. Here we go. Same notes. Of course, an A melody needs a B melody. And here's a choral rendition of it, just reharmonized, but same melody. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Golem now. Golem is a game that we made and shipped just last November for PlayStation VR. I did another prequel album for it called Echoes of the First Dreamer. I'm going to go through some of the same sketch process, the same way with Golem as I did with some of the other games that you just listened to. The first thing I want to show you is that by the way, yes, you can go buy Golem now. It's available at the PlayStation Store and at Perp Games. Okay, so the main piece that I want to talk about today is the lullaby. Now, Golem is an intimate story about a family, a mother and her two kids and a father, and the mother is gone. But the mother, at some point, sang this lullaby to her kids. And when I described this plot to my wife, Marcy, she said, "Oh, you should use the lullaby you wrote for Allison, my daughter, who was born many years ago." And I thought, well, that's a great idea. So I brought a lullaby back from many years ago, and then I orchestrated it, and I also played it on the piano. So the first version we're going to hear is the piano version of the lullaby, which plays an important part in the game. So the next part is going to be the orchestrated version of that exact same notes. But of course, I need to put things that in the orchestra that help with what the damper or the sustain pedal would be doing in the piano. So there are some sustained strings in there that are sort of mimicking what the piano's open strings would be doing. And then the melody is in the woodwinds, and the sort of rolling accompaniment is in the harp. The next thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to say this really quickly because this has to do with the importance of stems. And stems are when you have the different choirs or different layers of music separated so that you can use it adaptively, especially in a game situation where you want the game music to respond to what's happening in the game. Having different layers and different stems so that you can separate the music and build it up or take it apart is really important. One of the things that I've learned over the years is the importance of still continuing to have music that breathes, music that feels like it's live and has rubato. And it's hard to do that and still get stems because you have to have the strings play separately from the brass, which play separately from the woodwinds, which play separately from piano and harp and everything else. One of the ways I did this, especially on Golem, was to have some tempo maps made by piano performance, and then the conductor could listen to the tempo map and conduct the different orchestral choirs one at a time. And another way I did it, for example, on this song, is I had the strings play on the stick with the conductor, and then we made a tempo map of that. So then he could come back in and do the same conducting to his own beat, just with the woodwinds and just with the harp. And then that meant that all of those stems could be taken apart and put back together in the song. And one of the benefits of doing that too is that by having clean stems of each of these parts, something that came out of the lullaby was the string stem, which was what I was talking about before, as something that sort of mimicked the open string sustain of the piano. When you listen to it all by itself, it turns into its own piece and something that could be built upon later. So listen to this and you can hear what I'm talking about. So there's a very simple little string stem from the lullaby that really wasn't something I ever played on the piano, but became its own little thing. And of course, if you can't figure out how to use that in a game, you're just not trying very hard. So anyway, that is the end of my talk. I want you to know you can still get Golem right now. It's out for PSVR. You can get Echoes of the First Dreamer from the Materia Collective. Is available now. Vinyl, digital, CDs, whatever you want, you can get it. So that's the end of my talk, and thanks a lot for coming, and hopefully we're going to be seeing each other in person soon. Thanks.